So Virgin Island was a weird show. I know I've covered a few reality shows on this channel in the past, but I don't watch them. I just kind of hear about them and see a few clips and then speak from there. But this show, I'll put my hands up and admit, not proudly, but I did get drawn in to this show. I watched a few clips, then the first episode, maybe just to know a bit more about what to talk about in this video. And then, yeah, I ended up watching the whole thing. There was only 6 episodes, so it wasn't that long, but still. And it's got some mixed reviews. There is some controversy around this show, and it's a very, very unique and weird format. So I'm going to talk in this video about what I thought about it, the good things, the bad things, all the people in the show, like what I thought about them. Because I think there's a mixed bag here in terms of, yeah, like I say, the good and the bad.
12 virgins have travelled to a paradise island to take part in a unique experiment.
The word virgin, people see it as a joke.
I'm 23, still a virgin. I feel like there's something wrong with me.
Terrified, absolutely terrified.
The truth is surprising. There are more adult virgins than ever.
Being a young adult in this day and age, it's difficult.
Social media,
dating apps,
influencers, TV shows,
porn.
Porn is everywhere.
Are you self-conscious about our genitals touching each other?
Now,
Yeah.
this radical retreat is offering a very hands-on solution.
She's a miracle worker. Woohoo!
When the moment arrives,
Would you like to move to the bed?
who will be ready?
So this show isn't what I expected it to be. I heard Virgin Island and I just thought it's going to be like Love Island, but they put a load of virgins in. It's going to be this big dramatized reality show, like every reality show these days, pretty much. But to my surprise, it really wasn't that. The people in the show actually did come across as genuine, real people with some actual like problems as to why they were struggling to lose their virginity. A lot of them had a lot of inner problems. They just couldn't cope with intimacy, even just like hugging or eye contact or flirting, anything like that they were struggling with. So there was some like unique situations in this show. On the one side, it was quite like a genuine and likeable show, but then obviously it is reality and the producers do have to spice it up. So they chucked in some, well, they're called surrogates, but they're sex workers. You know, they're there to teach these people not only the intimacy, like there is a therapeutic aspect to this course that they're on this island, but the goal at the end that they kind of paint for them is that they're all going to get laid at the end by these surrogates. Now, I'm going to put a spoiler alert here. Only one of the dozen contestants on the show actually did sleep with their surrogate partner. So in a sense, kind of anticlimactic in terms of what the show was painting to be like the goal for all of them. But what I will say on the positive note is that with this show, a lot of the people did grow and have their own positive journey and left the island feeling better about themselves. And that's a positive that they can take into the real world. So yeah, this course is like a mix of like therapy and yeah, just like intimacy exercises. All like the therapists and surrogates, they're kind of like hippies, to be honest. They all go down the spiritual route where they're like, you know, you've got to be in touch with your animalistic side and, you know, self-love and all this kind of thing. So in one aspect, in terms of like what the goal of the show is, it isn't as seedy as maybe I was expecting it to be at the start. With that being said, there is things mixed in there that I think, yeah, that probably isn't really appropriate. Like there is like a bit of nudity from the contestants in this show, which it wasn't really needed, to be honest. Like this is one thing that I question about this show is a lot of these contestants, they're all extremely shy and lacking in self-confidence. They're obviously kind of got a bit of shame around their virginity, and yet here they are on TV showing the public that aspect of them, and then like some of them getting their cocks out in some scenes and showing themselves in these intimate situations and not knowing what the fuck to do. That for me is a bit counterproductive, really. A part of me did think that what I thought the show was going to be might have been a bit better, where you just get these virgins dating each other and then maybe some therapists and stuff on the side, you know, to build their confidence up and kind of help them through things. So I'm not really a big fan of the whole surrogate side of things, even though they all individually, they were respectful and nice and they listened to the contestants in the show. So I can't knock them for that. They seem like nice people, don't get me wrong. But I mean, for me personally, I just don't agree with losing your virginity to a sex worker or someone whose job it is to do that. I don't really agree with that. But that being said, this is probably a bit of a better way of doing that if you're going to do it than going to the red light district in Amsterdam, for example. So there was like a mix of group sessions, you know, like more therapeutic sessions with these contestants and also the intimacy sessions. So the group ones, again, I didn't really understand. So they get all these contestants there in a group watching like kind of like softcore scenes with these therapists. They're like rolling around or like hugging or breathing on each other. Like these weird things that are like a bit awkward to watch, honestly.
I love your lips.
You're so nice too.
Thank you.
Now,
And then you flip me over.
fun.
Exactly.
They're gaining the knowledge to enjoy themselves.
Fucking sexy.
Oh, God.
Love that.
Whether you have intimacy issues or not, I feel like a lot of these things that they had to do as a group would have been kind of awkward to watch. And again, like one of the scenes where is about their body positivity, where they have to get up in front of the group wearing as little clothing as they're comfortable in. So like all the girls, they all wore like bikinis or whatever, and they have to like look at themselves in the mirror. And I kind of understand why doing that by yourself, maybe there's like an empowering aspect to that. But the lads getting up, stark bollock naked in front of everyone, and then it being shown on TV, I don't think that was really needed, honestly. But you know, that's what reality TV is. There's got to be something a little bit near the knuckle. And there were some concerns over the surrogacy side of things. Now, I have no issue with the start where it came with these people. A lot of them, they were like teaching the contestants just simple touch, like being comfortable being touched on the arm, on like the lower leg, things like that, and hugging. Like one of the contestants, Jason, he'd had a thing about like he couldn't hug people. So things like this, yeah, there's no issue with that whatsoever. Like I think there isn't really anything wrong with that. But obviously, as things get more and more sexual, there is that question mark of, are some of these surrogates in it for the right reasons? And that's what a lot of people were questioning when the show was announced. You know, is this something that they're benefiting from? You know, there is a bit of a kink there for some people. Not to say that is the thing with these surrogates, but there's also a question mark over, you know, these are potentially vulnerable contestants here. Are they going to grow an attachment to these surrogates? Potentially as well, that could be an issue. That doesn't seem like that happened in the show, but that is still something that could have gone wrong. And of course, again, putting some of these people on TV, I don't know if that was really beneficial to them. But from what we've heard, the vibe seems to be pretty positive amongst the contestants leaving the show. So I'm not going to really trash it too much in that aspect. And what I will say, another positive about the show, is they do raise important questions over just society in general. I know these contestants, I'm going to talk through them individually in a moment about their own journeys. They're all like on the extreme side of things in terms of whatever issues they have regarding intimacy and things like that. But it does raise like an actual problem over young adults these days, and when it comes to like relationships, the birth rate is dropping, the virginity rate is rising, more and more people are single in their 20s, and this is an issue in society, and they're all listing the reasons why they believe it is. You know, social media, possibly reality TV shows, adult videos, dating websites. I think all these things contribute to society going in the wrong direction. The difficulties around actually finding someone to have that connection with is getting harder and harder. Someone in their 20s, I can say that before my relationship, that it's something that I can definitely understand the issues that these people are going through and what a lot of other people in the world are going through. These days, people expect perfection, and I think a lot of these contestants, they were a victim of that, having issues with the way they looked or the way they were, and then they just expect that nobody's going to desire them. Some of them, you know, one of the contestants, Ben, he had a complete fear of like nudity, like he just didn't like his body or he didn't feel like it was normal. So that was where his issue came from. You know, Emma grew up being called the designated fat friend, and that affected her even in adult life, which again, it takes little things that can really affect people going forward on how they look. You know, Louise, you know, she was like a gym goer. That all stemmed from her not being comfortable about her body. So a lot of that is an aspect to this show, and I think social media and influencers is 100% a big issue with this. But there is a bit of irony when it comes to Channel 4, because they were posting some videos on YouTube, like some recap videos or like after show videos, you know, just talking about every episode of Virgin Island and what was happening. That's very common now with reality shows. But one of the people they had on there to do this was Rebecca Goodwin, who herself had acknowledged the issues around social media and adult videos as a problem in society and why a lot of young people are having issues around relationships. Yet she's directly contributing to those. So she does adult videos. She's also had a ton of work done on her body or on her face, and obviously is posting that all over social media. So she's directly an issue as well. So I find it a bit ironic that Channel 4 are kind of coming from the angle of putting light on these issues and trying to solve them in terms of how they're affecting the contestants' lives. Yet you're putting someone out there and giving them a platform when they're directly part of the problem. I found that was a little bit ironic. And also Rebecca herself talking about these issues as if she doesn't do them.
Maybe now it is getting to be more common just because of the standards that we hold on sex with social media and porn and things like that. So
well, let's talk through all the contestants in the show. Now, some of them got more limelight than others, but we're going to run through them and just like my thoughts on each one. Okay, so a couple of the contestants who didn't really get that much airtime. So Holly, she was like kind of this really shy Scottish girl who the only really revelation in her story was that she realised she was bi. that she liked girls. But then it's also come out after the show, because this was all filmed a year ago, that she's got a boyfriend now and lost her V plate to them. So yeah, I mean, like, a good story for her, like, thumbs up, I guess. You've got Pia, again, didn't really get much airtime really until towards the end, where she got, like, let's say, a massage from the one of the surrogates, and yeah, so we got to hear that. But yeah, that's the only thing that really got shown in a story, which I thought was I don't know how she's going to feel about that. Viraj, again, he didn't get shown any scenes in terms of his own journey or anything. Every time we saw him on camera, he was probably flirting with Emma. So they had their own, like, kind of like romance, and people, maybe that was like a story they wanted to push, that two of the contestants kind of like were potentially going to be together. And then it's turned out that they didn't end up getting together. So, but you know what? He seemed like a nice guy, to be honest with you, and so did Emma, who had, like I mentioned before, had her own confidence issues. But by the end of the show, I think maybe came out of things feeling a bit better about herself and a bit more empowered, which is all good. Louise, we mentioned, she had issues around her own body, and again, seems like a nice enough girl. And I hope that she came out of the show feeling like, you know, better about herself. And then, like, Taylor and Tom, they had kind of similar stories to Holly, where they had a bit of a self-discovery about them. So Tom was trying to figure out his gender identity, and I don't know if he fully came to a conclusion by the end of the show, but he was focusing on figuring that out more than the virginity side by the end. And then Taylor, who went in identifying as bisexual, got into it to a point with one of the female surrogates that she just realised, yeah, she don't like men. She's in it for the girls. So again, like, that's probably going to help her. She knows what she's aiming for going forward. Jason, I kind of mentioned as well, couldn't even hug his mom. Seeing him, like, get over that physical touch barrier was quite a good thing to see, and that will help him going forward. Again, he seems like a nice guy. The only thing was, he's very open and honest, because this guy, I don't know how many times he mentioned having a boner or climaxing. The amount of times he mentioned it and was, like, proud about it. He's like, I've got a boner. Yeah, but that was kind of amusing. But yeah, he seems like a nice enough guy. And then you got Ben, who was very, you know what, Ben, he reminds me of Mark Corrigan from Peep Show, where he's just very serious, very, like, I don't know what the word would be, like, you know, he's very serious, he's very, like, I don't know how to describe him with words, but he himself said it, that all the dates that he goes on, he keeps an Excel spreadsheet, kind of like seeing how he can improve and things like that, like a football manager. That kind of explains him quite well. And obviously him seeing all these hippies do these animalistic exercises and things, I can imagine a lot of times in his head he was probably thinking, what am I doing here? Like, what is this? But yeah, again, he seemed like a nice enough person. A lot of them seemed like nice. There was two contestants who I think were a little bit controversial and didn't come across the best in the show. So let's talk about them now. Charlotte, kind of mean, honestly. I don't know. She came across really confident, and you're kind of questioning what's her sort of like issue, what's her story got her to this island. She had made one or two comments with the other contestants that were a little bit like harsh, a little bit overly honest, and they weren't appropriate. She commented on Jason's body and like him not being good on like their massage practice. And she made a few concerning comments regarding her surrogate as well, who she got along with, and the surrogate was like fine with her. But her sort of like finale towards the end was just like straddling him, and then her wanting him to like call her a goddess, which I thought was a bit like, okay, you know, I don't think that's really a realistic thing for someone to just do without you asking them. And to quote her, she said that her surrogate was a tool to be used to get what she wants. Bit of a red flag, I won't lie. I have question marks over this person, if I'm being honest. And Zach was probably the most controversial person on this show, 100%. From day dot, he went in there like he wasn't uncomfortable with any of the conversations or exercises around sex or intimacy. This guy, while everyone at times were covering their eyes, looked proper uncomfortable and traumatized, he was just there with a smirk on his face during the whole process, because I think he was just expecting the first episode to go in, get laid, and leave. Honestly, I think he was expecting this show to be like a long weekend in Amsterdam or something, because you could tell from early that he was getting frustrated at not actually losing his V card like quickly in the show. So for context, in the early parts of the show, obviously the surrogates are trying to like gauge where the line is with these people. So they're like touching their arm, touching their legs, their stomach or whatever, and just kind of figuring out what makes you uncomfortable. And a lot of people, they were stopping them, you know, when it got to a certain point, like, you know, above the knee or on the torso or something, or when it comes to hugging. So, and what a lot of the people that these surrogates are used to working with, they do have these issues. Whereas Zach, he was like twitching the arms of his surrogate cat, and he actually stopped the exercise in the middle, and I was kind of shocked. I was like, well, I thought this guy was like, he seemed okay with all this. Why? I'm surprised he stopped it. But it was for the opposite reason. He was like, yeah, this isn't really doing it for me. Like, when are we going to get further on in the process? Obviously, the surrogate's like, well, hang on a minute, mate, you're on a course, and also I'm sacrificing myself for this, so, chill out a bit, mate. This is the first episode, by the way, and usually people would say, I want to develop myself, or self-growth, or feel better about myself, or raise my confidence, or get over my intimacy issues. He was like straight up, oh, I would love to have sex with you.
We're done.
You're done?
Yeah.
What came up just then that made you feel like stopping?
I think, touching your arm's great. It feels amazing. It's just, obviously, I want more.
Okay. But it's a process. Like that, I wouldn't do more than that on a first session with anybody.
Yeah.
So how far are you wanting to go with surrogate partner therapy?
I would like to go all the way. I would love to have sex with you. That's why I came here, really.
Damn, man. Jeez Louise. Buy the girl a drink first. No wonder these chat lines ain't been getting you any girls in the past. My God. That's horrendous stuff to watch, honestly. Before one of his sessions, he was like around in a group, and I'm pretty sure he said like, oh, I think I'm going to ask for a blowjob or something like that. I was just like, mate, what is your deal? Like, yeah, man, he didn't come across well in this show, honestly. I think towards the end, he kind of brought it back and realised that he needs to be a bit more vulnerable and this, but yeah, he had a few controversial moments. Obviously, he had that conversation with Kat where he was like starting to get a bit like defensive at the fact that she wasn't giving herself up quickly and progressing quickly along the course. And this is a human being, by the way. I know it's a job, but you are speaking. This isn't an object at the end of the day. He was like saying that she might have been intimidated by his confidence or something.
I think I came in here, confident and excited.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you're as used to that in this line of work, and I don't know if you find that intimidating.
I'm trying to help you learn how to attune, but I don't know, I'm feeling blocked and I'm trying to understand why. Okay, then I think we'll get dressed and that's enough for today.
Okay.
I was like, my God, you've signed up to a show called Virgin Island. I don't think she's intimidated, respectfully. And the irony is, from the start, he was probably one of the only people who probably could have straight up just gone in and lost his virginity, and been comfortable with it. And the irony is that he left the Virgin, so it just didn't go well, honestly. And I think, yeah, he has a lot to learn in terms of respect. The reason I say this is because his surrogate cat was also a surrogate for another contestant, Dave, who I'll talk about in a minute, but he was the complete opposite in terms of he was a lot more respectful, and his journey was a lot different. But finally on Zach, the last thing I'll talk about is the whole compliments thing. So he was like, I need to learn how to give girls compliments. So he started practicing on the girls on the island, which is fair. I think learning the art of compliments is a good thing as long as they're genuine and they're appropriate. 100%, just in general, not just the girl, just to anyone. It can really improve somebody's day. So I think that's a good thing to try and learn. But it didn't come across genuine. Everyone was around in a circle. He got his book out and he was just complimenting everybody, like going around in a circle. And all the compliments, let's just say, they didn't match each other. So he starts with Emma and Louise and he's like, Emma, you've got like really nice eyes. Then he goes on to Louise, tells her that she has a banging body and that she's sexy as hell. And it was a bit like, oh, okay. Bit uncomfortable. I think everyone in that moment wanted the ground to swallow them up, to be honest. But then after he says that, he goes to the other girls and he's like, oh, you're really funny. You've got a really good singing voice. To Charlotte, he said, you say that you never flirt with me, but you always do. And she's rightfully so. She's like, that's not a compliment, mate. And obviously everyone's kind of like, you can't just go to someone in front of everyone else. You've got a banging body. You're sexy as hell. Oh, and you've got a good personality. You can't do that. If you did it to everyone individually, it would have been no issues, other than the one to Louise, which is a bit beyond the line, to be honest. But yeah, man, that was just a bit uncomfortable. Dave was the only one who actually did lose his virginity on the island. I think he was kind of the MVP of the show. Now, not for that reason. I actually think, again, like I said earlier, losing your VCOD to someone whose job it is, I think it's a little bit of an L, to be honest. Losing it on TV, also not great. But it turns out he actually has a girlfriend now in, the real world. So fair play to the guy. And he came across really well in this show. Even with this, I think when you compare him to Zach, for example, with the same surrogate, he was always checking in on her during every exercise. Obviously, her concern was always with him. He's the one who's uncomfortable, who's inexperienced, and she's obviously, this is kind of like her stomping ground. It's a job, but he was always checking up on her. Like when she'd ask him if he's okay, he'd ask her, is she okay? Like how she felt afterwards. You know, whenever he would go back to the group after a session, even if he did something, you know, that some men would possibly brag about, he wouldn't say anything. He'd just say that his session went well. I think that goes a long way, and I'm not surprised to learn that with a bit of extra confidence, he's come back to the UK and he's found himself in a relationship. That doesn't surprise me at all. Sometimes there are a lot of good people out there, men and women, who are single, but they just are lacking that confidence or that ability to go up and talk to people. And yeah, I think he's a good example of that. But one thing I did laugh about this, so I mentioned that there is a bit of nudity in the show, but what I will say is when the actual sex came about, anything other than foreplay, they didn't actually show any like actual sex in the show, which is something at least. I mean, you start to question at points whether they are actually going to cross that line, but they didn't. But one thing I did find funny, so whenever anything remotely sexual or inappropriate for TV did happen, you'd kind of hear what's going on, but in terms of what you'd see on screen, you'd just see like the island, essentially, like these naturistic shots of the island while you're hearing like these sex noises. So with Dave, I found it really funny because you're hearing what's going on obviously in the show. You can see all these like clips of the island and it's really peaceful and things like that. And then as you can hear, you know, the end, the climax, it cuts the waves in the ocean splashing all over the place. And the editor knew what he was doing. I found that kind of amusing, to be honest. But yeah, that's all the contestants in the show. I hope this video hasn't gone on too long. If you're into reality shows, you'll probably enjoy this. I thought it was an interesting watch, honestly, even though I don't fully know how I feel about it or if I agree with it. But yeah, let me know in the comments what you think if you did watch the show. If you've made it to the end of the video, fair play to you. I appreciate that. Please leave a like on the video. It'll help the channel grow. And yeah, subscribe if you haven't already. Check out all the other videos on my channel. I don't just talk about reality shows. There's a few videos on here of that, but my content at the moment is very varied. So yeah, stick around for more and let me know in the comments any videos that you want me to make in the future. Thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next video.